Science of mind. It is by mind that you live or die. Mortal mind is a temporary intellect system loaned to human beings for use during the material lifetime. The mind of man is some part of the mind of God. Therefore, it contains within itself unlimited possibility of expansion and self-expression. The conscious mind of man is self-knowing. It has volition, will, choice, and may accept or reject. It is the only part of man's mind which can think independently of conditions. The subconscious mind of man is simply the law of mind in action. It is not a thing of itself, but it is the medium for all thought action. It is the medium by which man may call into temporary being whatever he needs on the path of his experience. The mind of God is infinite. The mind of man is some part of this infinite, creative mind of God. Therefore, the mind of man is as infinite as the mind of God. As man skips to understand his true relationship to God or Spirit, the mind of man is continuously unfolding a true, greater recognition of its own plan in the creative order of the universe. It does not yet comprehend its own power or scope, but it does know how in some measure to consciously cooperate with the infinite. Spirit is really the only mind there is. It is eternal. It never began and never will cease to be. It is complete and perfect, happy and whole, satisfied and at peace with itself. Because the mind of man is the mind of God in man, the mind of man is conscious and directive. It is to a man what God is to the universe. God is spirit, that is, without parts, a universal unity and wholeness. God is mind. The self-knowing mind of God is the Spirit of God, and at the same time, the spirit of man. Mind in its self-knowing state is spirit. The mind of God and the mind of man is the same mind. The conscious mind of man is part of the self-knowingness of the mind of God. The conscious mind of man is the self-knowingness of spirit through the thought of man, hence creativeness. The conscious mind of man is that part of all unity with the Supreme Spirit, which enables man to be an individual unit, separate in identity, without becoming separated from the whole Spirit of God, the whole mind of God. Without this conscious mind of man in an individual, God or the Spirit would have no independent offspring. Therefore, God will not be completely expressed. The eternal has placed itself at the center of man's being in order that man may function individually. The discovery of this, the greatest truth about man, is this divine self-knowingness in man, which distinguishes him from all other creation. It belongs to man alone. Man alone is able to work out his conscious destiny, to determine what manner of life he should lead. The subjective mind of man is part of the universal subjective mind of God. It is a place where every man individualizes himself on the subjective side of life. It is his use of cause and effect. It is his use of the law of karma. It is a law of the whole now individualized as a law of the apparent part. It may produce freedom or bondage according to the way it's used. Man's use of the universal law makes it seem as though the objective were an entity of itself. It never is, however. And this is one of the main points we should remember. God is greater than man, but God and man are one. The whole is greater than its parts. Mind is subject to will. Will is the manifestation of the human mind which enables subjective consciousness to express itself objectively and to experience the phenomenon of aspiring to be godlike. And it is in this same sense that every effectively and spiritually minded human being can become creative. Human consciousness rests gently on an electrochemical mechanism below and deliberately touches the spirit energy above. Mind is a technique wherein spirit realities become experiential to creative personalities. Mind is not a physical illusion and is dependent on brain capacity, afforded by purely physical and evolutionary development. The soul is the self-reflective, truth-discerning, and spirit-perceiving part of man, which forever elevates the human being above the level of the animal world. To suppose that the creative intelligence of the universe would make man without leaving him to discover himself would be to suppose an impossibility. Individuality must be spontaneous. The seed of freedom must be planted in the innermost being of men. Man must make the great discovery for himself.